Hi, I'm John Green, and this is a Crash Course American History. This week, we talk about one of the many cases decided by Chief Justice John Marshall that shaped the future. This case, which took place in 1832, was Worcester versus Georgia. So, as you might recall, John Marshall was a Federalist appointed as a so-called midnight judge by John Adams in his last days of his substandard presidency. Although the Federalist Party had all but disappeared, John Marshall upheld a Federalist policy during his 34-year reign. He increased the power of the central government and established the Supreme Court as the final authority on the meaning of the Constitution. He had a loose view of the Constitution, too. Samuel Worcester was a minister from Vermont who was sent by the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions, or ABCFM, to the Cherokee capital in Georgia. While there, he became very close to the Cherokees. 4 years later, the Georgia government passed a law prohibiting so-called white persons from staying in Cherokee Nation without permission and a license from the state. Mr. Green, why did they pass this law? Well, me from the past, they realized that missionaries like Worcester were highly influential in the Cherokee resistance movement. He encouraged the Cherokee not to bow down when Georgia government attempted to forcefully remove them. Mr. Green, why did the Georgia government try to remove them? They wanted their land. Andrew Jackson authorized the Indian Removal Act of 1830, which allowed him to negotiate with the natives about moving them to far less fertile territory in present-day Oklahoma, in exchange for their land. The Georgia legislature also passed a bill that extended its jurisdiction over all Cherokees within Georgia, restricting their authority over their own land. One part of this bill included the aforementioned law about licenses that Worcester was punished for violating. Worcester was initially found guilty by the Supreme Court for the county of Gwinnett in Georgia and sentenced to 4 years of hard labor. He appealed to the Supreme Court for a couple of reasons.
I, Samuel Worcester, appeal this decision. I am a citizen of Vermont and I entered the Cherokee Nation as a missionary under the President of the United States, and I will only leave if he asks me. Also, there are many treaties that have created the Cherokee Nation as a sovereign nation, not under the jurisdiction of Georgia. The laws of Georgia, which have found me guilty, are repugnant to the treaties and unconstitutional.
The Supreme Court was authorized to rule over this case because it was possibly unconstitutional and in violation of the treaties and laws of the United States. There were multiple other missionaries in this case as well, but Worcester had a special situation. Georgia argued that Worcester had violated the law. John Marshall had a different opinion, however.
Indian nations are sovereign nations, to be ruled by their own laws. This has been stated in a number of treaties, such as the Treaty of Hopewell and the Treaty of Holston. Americans may negotiate with the Indians, but they do not have the right to possess their land or exercise political dominion over them, unless by conquest or purchase. These rights are in the hands of the federal government, however, not individual states. Basically, Georgia does not have a right to enforce these laws in Cherokee nations because it is a sovereign nation. The Constitution gives this power to the central government alone.
This ruling, which agreed with the majority of other justices, showed Marshall's Federalist leaning by reducing the states' rights. How did this ruling impact history? Let's go to the thought bubble. Andrew Jackson, who was in favor of Indian removal, had some harsh words to say about it.
John Marshall has made his decision. Now let him enforce it.
Whether Jackson truly said that is unknown, but he was definitely not a supporter of Marshall's decision.
The Supreme Court does not have power to enforce this act. I will continue to follow through with the Indian Removal Act of 1830.
While Worcester was freed, Jackson continued to support Indians' removal. Worcester versus Georgia was meant to help the Indians, but in truth, it did little for their cause. It did establish a precedent of trial sovereignty. However, Jackson continued with Indian removal, and his successor, Van Buren, forcibly removed Indians from their homes and into present-day Oklahoma in a tragedy that is commonly known as the Trail of Tears. So, in review, the defendant of the case was Georgia. The prosecutor was Worcester. Worcester complained that a law requiring his arrest for being on the Cherokee Nation without a license was unconstitutional because it was repugnant to the Constitution and to various treaties between the U.S. and the Indians. John Marshall ruled in favor of Worcester. He said the law violated the treaties, which the Constitution states to be the law of the land. He also said that because of the Cherokee Nation is a separate sovereign state, only the central government can negotiate or make treaties with it. This ruling established tribal sovereignty, as well as the necessity of respecting treaties. In the end, however, it did not help the Indians very much because Andrew Jackson continued to forcibly remove them from their homeland. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week, and as we say in my hometown, don't forget to be awesome.